Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Uplifting Studios TV. I'm Annie Gishiru, and today I'm joined by Summayyah Sadiq-Ojibara. Now, Summayyah is a psychotherapist and a writer. I first met Summayyah at a digital conference that we were speaking at a couple of months ago, and she was just simply outstanding. From the moment she opened up her mouth to speak and she acknowledged everybody who was in the virtual room, she had us, she gripped us. And just hearing her speak, I thought this is somebody that I'd love to bring on to Uplifting Studios TV. And so welcome, Summayyah. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Annie. I'm pretty excited myself. I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So let's get started. I just want us to you to take us back to West Africa, to Lagos, and tell us a little bit about your upbringing, growing up in Nigeria, and making the move to Australia.
Yes. So I'm from the western part of Nigeria. So I'm a Yoruba woman from the Yoruba tribe. And I grew up in a middle class family. So very modest, but education was highly valued and still is. And I was very blessed with parents who instilled that in us. But in as much as there was just quite a number of usual kind of conditioning that would happen with where women needed to be or what they shouldn't be and all of those things. I'm privileged and blessed to have parents, both my mother and father, who brought us up to value learning and to extend ourselves in every different way. And so we grew up in an environment that is very dynamic, very, very colorful. Nigerians are some of the most amazing, very resilient people. But there's also all kinds of remnants and continuation of the history of colonialism and all of that. So we've got what people might wonder about my accent as this very interesting accent that I have, which is some kind of combination of British and American and who knows what. So, but it gives you a picture of how very diverse Nigeria is. And growing up in that place, there's so much of myself that was formed in that space as a person, as a woman, as a Muslim who was able to just basically get to know who she was and learn what the world was like. Then we've got a really short show today. If you wanted me to talk about the whole of Nigeria or the whole of my growing up, probably 2 shows will not be enough.
I
But
know.
it's enough to say that I had strong female characters, my mother, my grandma, and my father is also someone who really, really encouraged us to read and expand our sense of the world. Anyway, to cut a long story short, grew up, went to university, started a career, and just about the time my career was peaking in the space of a few different things, that was when we decided, my husband and I and the children, to move down to Australia. Now, the long and short of our move to Australia, the first thing was a cultural shock, because up until then, what I knew myself to be was a Muslim, and we would have issues around some of that because, as you can see, the way I dress is something that immediately identifies me as a Muslim. So that one in Nigeria, with the usual issue of trying to really understand what it means to be a Muslim woman, was already present. But it wasn't until I came to Australia that I knew I was Black. So, so coming to Australia, that was one of the most immediate things that I had to face and understand. The other thing was, here I was, quite experienced, quite qualified, very passionate, very interested in birthing and rebirthing my dreams. And then I come here, I'm either overqualified or didn't have local experience. And it was just one rejection after the other. Couldn't fit in anywhere. And then I had young kids. My children were 6 and 7 at the time, and the youngest was just under 2. And we came here, and there was just a lot of adjusting to do with regards to just understanding some of the culture and just being able to adjust to the place here. Dave did really well because they're children, but at the same time, there were just a lot of things that kept coming up. And shortly after I came, because I just couldn't be satisfied with just I've got a folder in my email box with many letters of rejection of jobs. It's still there. It still reminds me. Yeah, several. Anyway, decided to do childcare experience, and I had a great time there. I was an unqualified child assistant. But what I didn't realize is that as a person of faith, this came later on. I realized later on that I actually needed to be there because I got to meet the children, the different kinds of children that were there. And it exposed me to certain value systems that were present here, because I've been working with children for the longest time, and women and men. But coming to that space, it kind of prepared me. And then I founded an organization, a non-for-profit organization, that I would then run different personal development programs for women, men, young people. And I also decided to become formally trained as a psychotherapist and a counselor, and been working since then. So I'm trying to condense many years of
what led you, Summayyah, to getting into psychotherapy and counseling? You know, that sounds really heavy.
So I do believe, knowing what I know about myself now, I do believe that I already been started on that path from the longest time. I've told this story in a few different places where in secondary school, I would always be the one to stand up to try and engage people, to try and solve people's issues. And so I've always been fascinated by people. I've always been fascinated by the human psychosocial experience of existence. And so I was already running programs that were always targeting building human capacity from a belief that everyone has a capacity to be great. So that was sort of a belief that I had. And then when I came here, and then I realized that I wasn't going to be able to fit in with all the experience that I came with, I then realized that I did want to get formally trained, because I was also doing counseling work before I came here. So that's how come I went to school and did a postgraduate degree and then a master's degree in counseling and psychotherapy.
And so talk us through now your career getting into, you know, psychotherapy, getting into counseling. What are some of the barriers you faced? Because as migrant women of color, our challenges are very unique. And so what are some of the barriers that you face, you know, getting into the workforce, if you like, you know, being trained, having had that, you know, qualification? What are the barriers?
Okay. So up until then, some of the immediate encounters that I had with formal therapy was watching Dr. Phil shows. So I remember that time I would watch and I'd say, what's wrong with these white people? Why are they talking about all these things? But anyway, yeah, so that was quite an interesting thing. And I remember when I decided to go to school to then become formally trained, pretty much the only Black person, only Muslim woman in the whole place. And so that was an immediate one. The other one is just how Eurocentric the theories and the practice is. And so I remember the first time as part of what our training was to go and get therapy. I remember how anxious I was. I remember how I kept thinking, as soon as I get into the room, this therapist is going to say that I have daddy issues. And as soon as we started talking and she was asking about my father, I said, there it is. I knew it. This is what, you know. So I went in with some anxiety because I didn't know what to expect, and because the people that I was going to see didn't look like me, they didn't understand me. So that's another barrier that I find there. And so even during my training, I would sometimes challenge some of the materials that we were used to to be taught. And some of the educators didn't really have answers for me. Some of the subjects that I actually got distinctions in were because I had to challenge some of those things to say, this is so limited, it's so narrow because of the diversity of the world. The third thing has a lot to do with, I think, the fact that I am a minority of a minority. I'm Black and I'm Muslim, and we just don't have people here. So I'm often the only person that looks like me in many, many spaces, whether when I was doing some work with some non-for-profit organization, or whether it was when I was training or when I would go for conferences. I'm literally the only one there. So these are some of the challenges there. The other thing, which I kind of mentioned a little bit based on my own experience, has to do with the lack of understanding and the fear and the anxiety and the stigma and the lack of information about what psychotherapy actually is, especially amongst migrant community. And so when you tell people you're a psychotherapist, you see them scratching their head. No, you're a psychologist. So there's just a whole lot of things around that. So that's something I'm constantly needing to, first of all, work people through before they even feel comfortable. Another thing is, except for one or two places that I did some work in, and the people that were coming weren't given any choice to say whether they were going to go see this Black therapist or they prefer a white person like themselves. Always that initial sense of, confrontation of, this is a very different person from me. But I didn't really feel it as such, even though one or two of the places I worked in, white neighborhood, as different can be with me. But, I definitely thank God that once we would meet the client and some kind of connection was established, it didn't matter. We had a relationship of trust. And was a relationship we used in the therapeutic space. But just from the beginning, you could cut the tension with a knife sometimes. So these are just some barriers that, yes, they would show up every now and again. And when I say white, I don't mean that it's just people that have the white skin. They're people who are non-white, but they're not Blacks. And some of that, as soon as you see the skin color, they're just like, okay, we don't know how to deal with you because you're not like anybody we know. So it's either there are two extreme reactions. It's either intense scrutiny, and this is not just in the therapeutic space, it's in a lot of the spaces. Intense scrutiny, sometimes very intrusive. There's a lot of this sort of interrogation of, who are you? Why are you here? What are you doing? Or the other end, which is an erasure of sorts, where there's a deliberate way that you're just invisible. No one acknowledges you. So I go to those places, I might get one person say hi or some uncomfortable smile in the distance. Other than that, I'm alone by myself, really. And so, of course, when I speak in those places, there's a lot of attention. Okay, they don't really, people don't really know how to place me because, I'm not like someone they've met before.
Absolutely. And so how do you then deal with the idea of self-limiting beliefs? And the reason why I ask this question, because myself as a life coach who supports migrant women of color, self-limiting beliefs is something that we really dig into quite a bit, because mindset is such a big part of who we are and who we become and who we believe we are. Self-limiting beliefs, are there any that came up during this time of barriers and just generally just in your life? And how do you overcome, how do you silence that voice that tries to drag you down?
I'm a huge believer about self-awareness. Anybody who is familiar with my work or when I speak, this is one of the most important things that I ask people to focus on as a matter of immediacy and urgency if they haven't started. And if they started, then they need to interrogate or at least evaluate themselves to know whether they are doing that work. So before I came, I was already on that path of self-awareness. So there was a lot of parts of me that were already being formed. But it wasn't until I came here and I started seeing and experiencing some of the apparent, implicit, the nuanced way that I was treated. It wasn't until then that I realized that I needed to understand what my identities were and I needed to own them as much as I could. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't feel discomfort in some places. I made up my mind some time ago that I don't belong everywhere. I don't believe in that idea that I need to go everywhere in order to belong. I don't. If I go to an event and it's not like I really need to be there, I want to learn and I go there and I feel such a very oppressive energy, I will leave the place. I don't need to injure myself. So I believe that my sense of self and some of the self-concept that I've developed over time have really helped to help me realize that we are sharing the world together.
Mm-hmm.
I can't decide for another person how they're going to perceive me, but I will create those chances and opportunities for two hearts, two human beings to connect based on what it is that they can offer each other or contribute to each other's life. And I try to stay as authentic as possible in that. But hear what I'm saying. It doesn't mean that I don't feel some discomfort in some places. I just don't allow it to become a driver. I recognize it.
That's
I
beautiful.
recognize it. I take it as is and I do what I need to do. So where there might be some kind of need to overcompensate, say for example, I'm
Yes.
the only one there and I'm feeling like, okay, well, okay, one quick one, because I'm conscious of time. There was a professional development program that was offered, and it was talking about something that had to do with what is usually associated with Islam. And when I saw the title, because I'm almost always the only Muslim, at least visibly identified as
Yes.
Muslim, I had to check myself. Okay, this thing I want to go and learn there is, do I really need to go? And I realized that no, I'd rather pay attention to my sense of self and comfort and how I was going to protect myself than go sit in a place where the energy, the poisonous energy will seep into my soul and start to mess up my mind. I wasn't going to do that. So I didn't go because there's nothing I'm going to say that some of these spaces or people don't know. They're not going to hear you. They're not going to take what you have to say. So there's no point.
Yeah.
There's no point in you laboring emotionally. So that's just a quick one of how I acknowledge, I accept, and then I go ahead and actualize as much as I can of myself and of what is required of me.
Yes, and this brings me to the concept of I am. And this is where I really just want to spend some time unpacking this idea of I am, because I've heard you say that we know this, we are more than one identity. But there's that way you look at somebody, just seeing you as how you address and saying, oh, she's a Muslim, and just making that one, a perception of this is who the person is, or looking at me and just thinking, okay, she's black, she's a migrant, and she doesn't, where are you from originally from? Well, what about those who have been born here and this is their country, but they are, they look different. So let's talk about the concept of I am.
Okay. I love those two words. I have a book, I might as well just show you, that I
Yes.
wrote. You can see it's got tags everywhere. This is my own personal copy. So
Yes.
this book, it's called Time Travel in My World,
Time
and let's travel
travel in my world.
in my world. Yes, and let's travel some of the way together in yours and ours. So the concept there is exactly tied to the concept of I am. I am inviting you to my world, the I ams of my world. And then when I invite you to come in, I'm expecting that you get to go into some of your arms, some of what you are. And that way we might find those in betweens where we share what we are to one another. So I am, for me, is about identity, is also about my humanity, because these are the two things that are almost always questioned, where I'm required to clarify, I'm required to justify. Almost always the two go along with each other. And so when I say I am, I'm talking about my identity. I am asking you to hear me, not hear you about me. I'm saying that I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a sister. I'm also a person who loves to cook. I'm a person who loves some local movies. I don't have a lot of patience for them. People who have listened to my talk, they're quite familiar with me saying that I'm a 5-minute watcher. I'm also a person who is always promising to do some Nigerian dances and never get around to it. But I'm also a person who travels deep within in herself. I'm a very reflective person, and I travel to some places. Some people even say they don't know what I'm writing, but anyway. So I'm a combination of things. And if you meet me, it's okay to be curious. In fact, curiosity is such a very central tool to our experience of existence, that being curious is must be followed or expressed with a certain language. It's not being intrusive. It is you asking me to tell me who you are, but not by demanding it because you expect that I must tell you my story, but by inviting me. So when I say I am, then I'm leaving room to tell you who I am. And if you are ready to listen, then you will meet some of me, and you will, get the experience of someone. Summayyah, Olaumi, Aduni. Those are some of the names. By the way, we name. They give us several names in my culture. So don't ask me how many names I have. Let's just stick with those two I've shared so far. Yeah. Then when I say I am, a picture of me, the form and the substance starts to emerge, and it becomes an exciting journeying together. And that's something that we sadly lose, because of so much of our narrowed way of thinking, because of fear, because of assumptions and all kinds of things. Yeah, so that's the concept of I am.
Right. And so let's dig deeper. And I know you showed me your book, and I want you to read us some quotes that we can just begin to unpack that whole idea of I am. And listening to you share before about being more than just the one thing. And if you could just read us a quote from the book, and we can just continue to expand on that.
Okay. So what I hope to do is I'll just give you little bits of my identities that may then give us an idea of what I mean. So there's one here that is a poem here that is called Eledami. This is Yoruba word for my spirit. That's the meaning of Eledami. That's my created essence. That's the meaning. So I'll just read the first part. So that's the first part goes, call me by my name, bearer of my light, holder of my spirit, pioneer of my dreams, secret of my powers, bringer of my tidings, beacon to my paths. So it's a long one, but the last part of it that is also very important that I wanted to leave it on is, call me by my name. It speaks of me. It speaks to me. It tells me who I am. It reminds me that I am. It belongs to me. Before it was a story. After it will come mine. I am Summayyah Olaumi Oluwatosin Aduniade Sadiq. So that's the end of that one.
That's powerful.
I also wanted to thank you. I also wanted to share a little bit about there's a chapter here that I titled I Am Woman. So woman is spelled as WHUMAN. I am woman. And that the part I want to read to you again, I'm just going to shorten it and share with us some of how we're sometimes perceived. And sadly, we don't. One moment. Okay. Sadly, we don't get to have a say as a woman. So this one goes thus. She's willful, not wild. Well, maybe just a little. She might indeed be that too. She's sometimes named wily, wayward, witless, worthless, without much worth. She might be witty and wise, with laughter in lots, discernment in depth. She is without a doubt with worthy ways of being more than just a woman. One of those women, an ordinary woman. She is one woman in many worlds, in one world with many, many, many kinds of women, in a world of half men, half women. Whatever, wherever she is, she will never be a woman in one word or two, because to be a woman is to be a story of 1,000 words in volumes of millions of voices. To be a woman is to be a writer of stories of other lives from birth to death. It is to be a witness for what the world does for, against her, woman, mother of earth, for the wounds the world inflicts, the worth the world instills in humanity for humanity. So I think we'll just leave some of the reading there.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
And so
Because of time as well.
yeah, Sumaya, just tell me, where does this come from? Because your writing is just, I mean, it takes it to another level. It settles us in a different space, and there's just so much to just, take in from what you write. So where does this come from? Is obviously lived experience, but when you're writing this poems, your books, where does this come from?
I call myself a student of life. I do believe that I draw inspiration from everywhere and anywhere, from myself, from the people around me, from the world, from just walking on the road and looking at a tree that looks half alive, half dead. That can inspire me. And
Mm,
because I'm a person of faith as well, I do believe in God, and I believe that I am blessed. I'm gifted with the ability to write, but I also learn it as a craft. So some of the writings will come like a flooding, but some I have to take time to craft it. So I've got a lot of half finished materials. If it's not coming, it's not coming. I just leave it until it comes.
yeah.
So it's not just random at times. Sometimes the inspiration comes and I might read something or watch something or just think about something and it comes out. But sometimes I do need to take time. I would craft it and it will have a rhythm in my mind and it will have a way. There's a way I want it to land, the impact and the inspiration I want it to have. So
Hmm.
it's quite an experience. And because I journey into my heart, into my soul a lot, I
Hmm.
think sometimes I do get lost a little bit.
You have some amazing writing. And just going back to I am, one of the things that comes up a fair bit is with my migrant women of color is just not being comfortable yet in their skin, wanting to fit in, a community where we as Black women are minorities, obviously, but when
Mm,
you're out there in the workplace, when you're out there, doing your everyday thing, it really stands out. And I love how you said it in the beginning that, coming here is when you realized the Blackness, of who you are. And I think we've all, had similar experiences where you leave your home where you are the majority, look like you, and then you come to a place like this where you go like, hang on, I'm the only one catching public transport who looks like me. I'm the only one in the supermarket who looks like me. The products I'm buying don't have anything that looks like
mm,
me. What would you say to, the young women who are experiencing those feelings of, I don't know if I'd call it an identity crisis, but certainly I felt like that. I've been in Australia now for 20 years. And I know when I
wow.
first came, oh my gosh, Sumaya, I just wanted to blend in, just to fit in,
Mm,
just so that I didn't stand out. Not that I wasn't proud of who I am or where I came from. I didn't want to stand out. But everywhere I
mm,
went, I stood out. I mean, there
mm,
was no way I could blend in. So
mm,
to those people who this is their journey now, they're kind of unsure, trying to embrace it, no, wanting to fit in.
mm,
What's your message to somebody who's there right now, just trying to find their place?
mm. Yes, it's this is an ongoing conversation, and I myself I am a work in progress. I know that some of the places that I would find myself is what would determine exactly how I might act in that place. So, but there has to be a baseline of your sense of self, because some of our self concepts are from other people, from the world we're in, from what we're taught, the movies we watch, the songs we hear, conversations that people just say and throw around. And so those things form some of the cornerstones of who we are. Now, if we're not doing that work of self awareness, we're simply going to accept what other people say about us that are not true. So what tends to happen are two extremes, either trying to disappear into the crowd or trying to shout loudly on top of the building so that everybody sees you. Both are always not going to work. I don't know how I'm going to blend in with this skin color or this a hijab is out of question, and I happen to be a tall woman as well. So why don't I just own it? So
Own
that's the
it.
first thing. Yes, that's
Own
it. It's
it.
as simple as that. To
Own
own
it.
it. So the first thing is to be self-aware of some of who you are. Um, I'm a tall woman, and that comes with going into an aisle in the shop and somebody saying, "Oh wow, you're tall. Could you help me get something from the top of that, please?" Okay, that's fine. And one of my sons is a very tall person, so he
Yeah.
sort of he kind of expects that happens. So be
Mm-hmm.
self-aware about some of who you are, what you have, even when you're shaking inside of you. Just know some of who you are, so that when somebody's trying to project onto you who you're not, you say, that's your baggage. That's not mine. You need to just hold on
Mm-hmm.
to it. I'll just hold on to mine. Then the
Mm-hmm.
second thing is to own it, which is part of what I'm saying. The third thing is also to be able to constantly work on improving yourself, not in order to prove yourself to something or to someone, because that's another trap. Or I'm going to show them that I'm capable of this, capable of this. So do it for you. If you still need to prove something, that's fine too, because some of that is political. Just be intentional about it, but don't do it just for somebody or someplace, or maybe you are the star of the workplace, the token black woman. So they put you on all the posters on their website. Don't get carried away by that, because it's just, some of it is just really tokenism. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Make sure there is substance in what you're doing. So you do need to also know your work, because that can help you also build your sense of confidence and worth, for sure. In terms of realizing some of what we have, there are two quick things that I'll read to you here. There's
Sure.
one that says, she's already created with her crown. She just has to learn to wear it.
Mm. Oh,
That's
I
it.
love that. So from what book is that one from?
It's the same book.
It's a
It's the
say,
same
okay.
book. Yes. So that
My
one
gosh,
says,
yeah.
she's already created with her crown. She just has to learn to wear it. So that means
Mm.
that if you're already coming from a place of value, yeah, it's going to be a bit difficult for someone to take you to a place of, to void that value that you have.
Mhm.
One more thing here, which is another short one. This one says, must I conform, perform, reform to be your form? I will be the form gifted, trusted, vested to me from the designer of all forms, yours
Mhm.
and mine. So to you, your form, to me, mine. So that's basically talking about diversity. I don't need to
Yeah.
be swallowed up by you. I don't need to be assimilated by you, but we can integrate in our differences. We can value our uniqueness. That's what that does. And what that again continues to build is sort of leveling in the moment when you meet someone and they take on this superior position of, oh, so how long have you been here? Are you enjoying it? So there's that position of the benefactor.
Yeah.
No, you can have a conversation that takes away some of the power dynamic from the other person. Why? Why do you feel like you need to come and, you need me to show some kind of gratitude for why I'm here? Why don't we have that human connection and just, I get to meet you, you get to meet me? So for
For
anyone,
who
for
I
some
am.
of our, for our sisters, It's really
Mm.
important to think of some of these key areas so that, and it's going to take time, but it's important to realize that owning it could be the way I'm dressed. I could
Mm.
just decide, oh, I wear
Mm.
this. But if I don't feel like wearing that, that's fine too, you know.
Yeah.
But I just need to be intentional about it. So those are some quick ones that I could think of.
Oh my gosh, Sumaya, I could talk to you all night because you drop so much wisdom, and those passages you have read are just so full of just so much encouragement and so uplifting.
Thank you.
Um, where can we get your book from? Tell us the title of your book again, and tell us where can we get it from?
Okay. So this book, let me show you a new one, not my copy. So this is this is time travel in my worlds, and
Yes.
this is it. And
Yeah.
let's travel some of the way together in yours and ours, and it's a
Yeah.
journal of sorts. So you will find me talking about myself, talking about some of my identities. I talk about, bits and pieces of Islam there, some of the key things we do. I talk about my experience of racism and discrimination. I talk about fears as a mother. I talk about just some concepts. So it's a journey.
Mm.
It's a
Mm.
traveling, and it's available on Amazon. But I'm going to move it completely to my website, which is being remodeled at the moment. Yes,
Alrighty.
I can always send
So,
the information to you, and you can put it on your
absolutely.
website.
Absolutely. So, where can people find you? Somebody's been watching this and they're going like, "Who is Sumaya? How can I get in touch with her? What are some of the ways that people can get in touch with you? What do you have a website? Are you on social media?"
Yes, I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Yes.
Hopefully, my website should be ready in another week or so.
Okay.
So please, reach out. Let's have some very interesting conversations. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that the second book should be out by the end of the year. That's the goal. I'm also hoping that there will be one of the project that is still on the wrap. So I won't say all of it, but there's a part there that is likely to result in a podcast of sort where I get to
Oh,
talk about some of
yes.
the concepts here. So these are things
I
I'm looking forward to.
I think that
I
would
also
be
run several programs. Yeah, I
yeah.
also run programs. I run workshops for men, women, children. I have sessions, one-on-one counseling sessions, people. So all of those things, they can reach me on all of those platforms, the social media platforms.
All right. Tell us the name of the social media platform so that they can find you. Is it just your name that we have on screen right now, or
Yes, that's it. That's it. Just type in that
that's
name
it?
and search, and it will come up with me.
Wow, beautiful. Well, Sumaya, what can I say other than thank you so much for gracing us with your absolutely amazing presence here. I think every time you
Thank
speak, there's just so much to take on, and there's never enough time. The first time I had you speak,
you.
we were like, no, we want to go on. And even tonight, it has felt like it's just gone like that. It really has. Mine is just to say thank you so much for coming on here and uplifting us in the way you have. No doubt we'll be having you back here again. And just thank you
And
so much for
can I
being here, Samaya.
Yeah, can I just have a quick word in is to say thank you, Annie. You're a very inspiring woman. I connected with you as soon as I met you at that program. And I'm just so glad that you're doing this work because this is one of the things we need as well, this sort of platform. So thank you for uplifting us.
My pleasure. Thank you and God bless. Now, for those of you who are watching, thank you so much for staying tuned and listening to Samaya's wisdom. I also want to let you know that I do have a free mindset audio guide. So if you're struggling with self-limiting beliefs and you're wondering, where do I go from here? If you haven't done that self-reflection, that self-work yet that Sumaya was talking about, mine's a little different. It just talks you through 3 very simple steps to begin to identify what your self-limiting beliefs are and begin to loosen that grip of self-limiting beliefs. So head over to my website, upliftingstudios.com.au, and you'll be able to download. It's 20 minutes and it's a good listening, and it'll really, really go a long way to help you. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Annie Gishiru. Take care.